Tech Transforms explores how technology is reshaping our world, particularly at the intersection of government, innovation, and human needs. In each episode, I talk with some of the most influential voices in technology, uncovering how they're leveraging innovation to solve complex challenges and improve the way we live. This episode is sponsored by OWL Cyber Defense, leaders in secure data transfer solutions for critical networks. Welcome to Tech Transforms. I'm your host, Carolyn Ford, and today I am so thrilled to welcome Lieutenant General Susan Lawrence. General Lawrence is the president and CEO of AFCEA International, and she has a distinguished career from leading IT transformation in the U.S. Army to driving AI adoption in national defense. And today we're going to dive into the critical and very timely topic of trusting AI in warfighting technologies. What's working, what's next, and how we can ensure AI serves as a force multiplier for national security. Welcome to Tech Transforms, General Lawrence.
Thank you, Carolyn. And again, I appreciate your talking to us and bringing this to the forefront. It is a topic that is being discussed across many venues right now. And so thank you.
It is. You know, I feel like you can't swing a dead cat without hitting AI these days. And your commentary, I'm just picking up the March Signal edition, and your president's commentary, which is one of the first articles. I think I'm not supposed to call it an article. Your commentary pops up. And, you know, I was surprised by some of the stuff in here, just like you quote Alan Wagner of GTRI, a senior research engineer, and a study they did said that they found that people followed robots' directions, even to the point where it might have put them in danger had it been a real emergency. And I was like, what? And so I start underlining, and I thought, I really need to talk to General Lawrence about this. So you emphasize in this commentary the importance of trust in AI for warfighting. What are the key challenges defense leaders face when integrating AI into mission-critical operations?
Thank you, Carolyn. I have been following artificial intelligence throughout my career. It actually started in the 1950s. But now it seems to have picked up the momentum and is now being relevant to our warfighters as we go forward. And we're seeing that today, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but we're seeing that today in the Ukraine-Russian conflict that's going on. We just saw it this weekend with Israel and Iran. And so the operations of artificial intelligence is coming out more and more than it has in the past. But there's still obstacles and there's still challenges as we look at it. And the first one that I talk about is it has to be based in cybersecurity. And cybersecurity is AFCEA's international North Star. Everything we do points back to cybersecurity and how we defend ourselves and support our warfighters as we go forward. And so I call it the technology Siamese twin, bringing AI and cybersecurity together. And that's how we're going to gain our trust, is if we know that it's based on secure measures and functions that we know that it's going to be a trusted environment. And it's important. It's extraordinary in defense, which we've seen, but it also can be a formidable weapon with our adversaries and how they use it. And we're seeing that on the battlefield today. So we've got to be able to keep up with artificial intelligence innovation. And I don't want to say this is a generation challenge, but our young kids get it and they use it all the time and they're not afraid to use it. Having said that, you still have to put the military aspect on it and the protection of our information, which is the second challenge. And that is, it's all about the data. Everything that we do, you look at the data, and we talk about how we control the just deluge of information and get it down to a point that it is usable to our warfighters, to our commanders as we go forward. And again, as we defend ourselves, our near peers are taking advantage of it, and they have things that they do not care about that we care about. There's
Mhm.
certain rules that have to be maintained, and there's a plan that we're working, and we will follow that because we are an ethical military and government as we go forward. And so we're going to have to work on that, continue to gain the confidence of our senior warfighters and what this capability can do.
Mm. It has been around a long time, 1950s. It's become accessible to the masses at this point. So I think, and you said our youth know how to use it and they're using it a lot. But you said, so first point cybersecurity and then data that we know we can trust. And I think those are both so key because I use generative AI. If I could implant a chip in my head today, I might. 'Cause that's how much I use it. And I have found it is not accurate often. So if I were not an expert in what I'm doing with the generative AI, I would be misled often. I would propagate, and I'm embarrassed to say have shared misinformation because I took it at face value.
Okay.
And so those two things that you said, just incredibly important. You also brought up the adversary uses it and may not really care about the same ethics that we do. So, how do we strike the right balance between AI automation and human oversight and still keep up with the adversary?
Yeah, it's that is so important, and I am a believer that we must keep the human in the loop. It's like you said, you've used AI and you believe what it says, but someone has to verify it. Someone has to say that is true. And when it becomes too cumbersome, then it's not valuable. And so,
Mhm.
how do we go through those works and those plans to say, how are we going to use it? How are we going to validate it? I have two recent examples. I was speaking out in California the week before last, and the discussion came up on Golden Dome and the
Mm,
merits of that. And of course, AI is going to be in the middle of that. And I remember one individual saying, we already have the plan written. We know where the enemy is. And if you have sight on the enemy and you're shooter to target, you should not have to call back. Just shoot the thing down. And I kind of went back a little bit and I said, I'm not sure we can just do that. I think somebody has to verify that that in fact is an enemy plane and not a civilian airline. And so we've got to work that piece of it. So the human piece of it is just absolutely critical, and how we're going to balance that.
it reminds me of, oh, I wish I had his name at my fingertips. Russian colonel, 1950s, thinks the US has sent a nuke at them. The computer tells him, fire back. And he's like, nope, not going to do it. Not
Right.
going to do it. Do you know who I'm talking about? Because
I know the story, and in fact, they brought it into a movie. That yeah,
yes. And he's just like, and he disobeyed orders. He disobeyed the computer. He
right,
disobeyed his his commander, I believe, even because he was just like, this is something is off.
right.
And that human in the middle, I mean, probably prevented World War III.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so we have to not take them out of the second example that I was given that I found very interesting. I was talking to a CEO of a tech company, and we were talking about how they use AI, and they do a lot of programming. And he says,
Mhm.
using AI with our developers saves us an unbelievable amount of time because we will put the architecture into the AI platform and they will come back very quickly with that makes sense, that doesn't make sense, that will gain you efficiency, that will not gain you. It would take a human an exorbitant amount of time to be able to come up with those solutions versus how long it took the AI platform to come with that information. So there's
Right.
the balance of accepting it and using it for our needs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't use it for national defense. I use it to help me write stuff, but I use it as a really an amplifier. Really, really smart assistant. I tell it, what I'm thinking, the message I'm trying to get across. Sometimes I'll even give it like a blunt sentence and say, help me make this flow or paint it for me, basically. And so, but like I said, if I weren't an expert in what I was asking it to help me with, it gives me back garbage. And we have to remember with Gen AI, which is what I'm, most familiar with and use the most, it's humans that have created that data.
Mm.
So we have to um, we have to know what we're doing
Right.
as people.
Right.
All right, so we've been talking about um, the need for responsible AI adoption in defense. What does responsible AI look like in a military context?
It has to be able to ensure mission success at the end of the day. And so, as we're looking at what this AI platform can do for us, is it has the technology superiority. It has the operational efficiencies that our commanders are looking for to be able to execute. And that's what we have to stay focused on as we go forward. But we have to build it, as I said before, inside this cybersecurity environment. So things like zero trust architectures, things
Hmm.
like the scanning that we do, fostering innovation through industry and working those kinds of things is so key. And before I get further on, what is really important is our partnership. As we look at how we're going to use artificial intelligence in our environment, we've got to partner with industry who's way ahead of the government, if you will, in what they're doing and how they're using it inside their mission. We've got to partner with academia as we look at how we teach this, when we look at the training. It all has to come together. And that's, we've talked about it, we'll talk about it again, is the plan. What has to go into that plan to make sure that we can train it, we understand it, and we know how to employ it. And one of the commentaries I did in the past is the country that wins the innovation race is the one that's going to win. And so, how do we take artificial intelligence and we put that into our innovation plan as we go forward? That is what's going to be really critical as we work through this. But again, looking at what the commander can get for situational awareness, I think it will improve tremendously what the commander can see on the battlefield, what the commander can see over the horizon. What's the next step of the enemy? And being able to project those kind of things is what AI is going to bring to the battlefield.
Yeah, and you mentioned training, and it's not just a one and done, I think. I think it's got to be continuous training, right? And then we have to verify that that training itself is clean and good. Clean is the
Right.
wrong word. I was going to say that there's integrity in the training, right? And then containment. I mean, how do we can't have nation states injecting into our AI models. So how do we protect and contain? So in that vein, what what steps should organizations and particularly defense organizations take to ensure that AI is used ethically and securely?
Yeah, that's so critical, Carolyn, because the thing that we know is happening is our intellectual capital is being stolen
Mhm.
by other nation states. They're being replicated by other nation states. They are watching us when we look at this technology and how we are going to use it. And in fact, we've introduced it and it's being used today on during these conflicts as we go forward. But as we look at a robust AI governance, if you will, the ability to be able to say, what's the risk assessment? And we have to have people that understand this environment and be able to look at the risk, to
Mm.
be able to follow ethical guidelines. as to what we will or will not be able to do as we go forward is what's really, really critical. But again, we have to foster that collaboration across the government, industry, and academia, or we're not going to get there. And we've got to have this open discussion as we look at this. We recently had a seminar with a government agency, and we were talking about cyber operations and the next serious cyber threat against us, and there have been many that have gone after our water sources, our telecommunications, the different ones, is we believe the government believes that the next serious threat we have to partner with industry because there's the technology, that's where it's being developed, and so that's a whole new way of doing business. We know how to plan and exercise and train to do a military operation. How do we do that with industry?
Hmm.
What industry partners do we bring in for what kind of threat that our near peers are throwing at us as we go through this? So these are discussions that we're having a lot here lately, especially with the defense industrial base. And it's a priority, and we will do a number of events this summer just on that topic of how we bring this in and how do we execute it and train it and look at the transparency, but more importantly, the accountability as we continue to push this.
Well, and that spirit of collaboration with industry and government is fantastic. And what you just said made me think you said a couple of times that industry is usually a little faster than government, but you mentioned that critical infrastructure, the water, the power. Industry, for the most part, runs that. So, right? So
Right.
so not only do we need to partner government industry for the technology, but government industry needs to partner. Like it's not us or them. This is national security. We have to be in this together.
I mean, and that's recognized at the highest level. We had a speaker from the National Security Council, and he just said straight out, we will not go into another conflict without our industry partners sitting beside us. So
Wow.
we have to work on how we do that and how we train and exercise because that's our strength as a nation is that we can think ahead and we work and exercise solutions and we come up with war plans and those kinds of things. We've got to do that now with industry at the room at the table beside them. That's just how we operate in the military is
Yeah.
that we come up with these plans and these exercises and we rehearse them and we get ready based on whatever the threat is. One of the greatest planners ever in our history was General Patton. And, he would do plan after plan after plan after plan until his staff would just be, you know, this doesn't work, but guess what? Something would happen and they'd pull that plan off the shelf and they'd be able to execute it immediately.
Mm,
That's the kind of thinking that we got to continue to have. But
mm,
now it's in from a different facet, it's from different environments. It's just not kinetic, it's not just steel on steel. It is now the non kinetic, it is the psychological art of the war and what we're
mhm,
facing as we go forward.
mhm. And hopefully, I mean, before it ever becomes kinetic, the war can be over, I guess.
Right.
Um, but you said that the National Defense Security or Security of Defense said we will not.
NFC.
So, and he said we will not go into these negotiations without industry. Is that what?
It's not negotiations. If there's a major cyber threat that
Mhm,
goes after our water system or our electrical system or our power grid, industry will be there beside us as we resolve these cyber issues. And it's important that we continue to think that way and talk about how we're going to do this. At this
mhm,
same summit that we had, one of our key leaders said, "We've never had to do this before. We've always been
mm,
contained inside the joint environment
mhm,
without industry." It's going to change how we think. It's got to change culturally I
Mhm.
after the military, I went with industry for 8 years, and I can tell you that we protect our intellectual capital. We don't share that with other industry partners. That's just
Mhm.
the natural way of how we get ahead in that industry in the business. But we've got to think about how we can come to the table and discuss how we're going to do this while still protecting an industry, a product, or uh, capability as we go forward. I want to go back to a thing, kind of a simple example when we talk ethical dilemmas, because what is one person's okay is not another's person.
Yes.
And I'm on the board of trustee at my alma mater, and we recently had a debate on artificial intelligence. And the business department was absolutely use anything you can to get ahead in business. Use that. It's a tool. It's for you. And then you go over to the English department and they go, absolutely not. You cannot use AI to write your thesis. You cannot use AI to do those things. It has to be your work. And
Mhm.
so that's the challenge of what's ethically acceptable to one may not be ethically acceptable to another.
That is a big dilemma, and when we were talking about just a minute ago, following those ethical guidelines, to your point, who writes those ethical guidelines? Because they're different for everybody.
Right. Right. That's right.
With the planning that's happening right now, how is AI currently enhancing that decision making and operational readiness in defense?
Yeah, it's being used more and more as we look at things and trust things, and we have certain organizations really moving out and looking at how this can be done. When you look at artificial intelligence incidences that have happened and you start doing the forensics, you have to use AI to get after that as well. The forensics. How did that
Mhm.
happen? Why did that happen as
Mhm.
we were going through it? And how can we then, based on what we learned, make our training more effective? And that's what's key. How do we do predictive analysis of what we're seeing? And
Mhm.
how do we take that and look at those vulnerabilities and those exploitations and learn from them is going to be key.
And using AI, I'm just thinking about how much data there is, from history, from data that we're creating like every second. I mean, humanly impossible for us to analyze that data,
That's right.
but AI to analyze that data and come up with the different win scenarios um, is that's possible. So, can you share an example where AI has made a measurable impact on mission effectiveness?
Yeah, we're seeing it today in the Ukraine Russia conflict from both sides.
Hmm.
Since 2003, we've been using these autonomous drones to to track enemy movement and it's been very effective actually against the Russian Navy as we go through that. But when you think about the human life it can save, and also some of the things that we have to look at as we're learning our lessons and coming back to it is how when we look at how much it costs to do an artillery or bomb actual physical targets versus a drone going in and dropping, um, you know, a bomb, if you will. The cost savings is amazing. There's not a pilot there that we're putting at risk when you
Mm.
think about flying into those missions. And
Hmm.
so, as we look at what we've learned there, Ukraine likes to call themselves the future lab of artificial intelligence and how they've been able to use it. And we are learning from it. And I'm not surprised that, this last weekend with Israeli attacking Iran and Iran, countering, that they're using the same technology, the same um, solutions, if you will, that we've been seeing for the last 2 years plus
Right,
in Ukraine. And they're
right,
using it immediately as we did that. We wouldn't have done that before.
right. What are the biggest roadblocks to AI adoption in defense and national security?
As I think about a roadblock, again, it is getting the commitment of the leadership to say this is a actual way to do military operations, and how do we do that? And until we get there, until it really comes from driven from our commanders out there that they're going to accept this kind of capability. And it's so different whether we're using AI in the academia environment, which I talked about, or AI on the battlefield. And how do we get there? And is what's going to be how we redefine our future warfare. It really is going to make a difference as we look at it. And again, working with our partners on how we will utilize this as we go forward is really interesting. The Army Cyber Command came up with a uh, behavior of networks, and it's called the panoptic junction. And we're getting some real good results from that, and it's driven by an AI tool itself. And
Mhm.
so what we've been able to do is take what Army Cyber Command has developed, and it's now in U.S. Cyber Command, and they're testing it now over this next year about what can that mean to the commander in his ability to pull in all weapon systems and AI very quickly to become a weapon system set commander that he will use.
But did I hear you right that our biggest roadblock is ourselves?
Um, Carolyn, I have often said in all of my positions, it's probably not technology that stops us. It's culturally,
Yeah.
are we willing to accept? And I would suspect this is the same case here. And but we have great commanders, smarter than I ever was, and they're out there leaning forward, and that's
Mhm.
what's critical. And it's being proven every day on how we're using it and how the robotics has grown even since I left the military so much, and how we use our robotics to
Mhm.
do different missions that we're not putting soldiers' lives at risk. That's what's absolutely key, is to be able to accept that, adopt that capability, and use it.
Mhm. You mentioned the panoptic junction. I would imagine that that's one thing that's helping our leaders gain trust in AI. Is it things like that that's going to overcome that cultural barrier about AI reliability and security risks?
Absolutely. I grew up in Iowa, so I always do the Missouri thing, show me.
Yeah.
And this is examples of how we're able to show our leaders what is in the art of the possible as
Mm.
we go forward and look at the capabilities that AI can bring to the solution.
Mhm. It's so I'm a big sci-fi fan, like to the point where, my son rolls his eyes. Like my dog's name is Han Solo. So, but the reason I one of the reasons I love it so much is it does show us what's possible to a great degree. We're dreaming these outlandish things about going to the moon, and
Right.
then there you go, we just did it. Well, not
But
just.
imagine going to the moon with a AI platform and a robot,
Mhm.
and what we could learn from that kind of a marriage as we look versus putting the human in the seat as we go forward. It's those kind of solutions that we can only, um, we're only limited by our imagination. So I agree
Right.
with you.
And I think, and I've got Neil deGrasse Tyson to back me up on this, that what the reason AI is not going to take all of our jobs and the reason AI isn't going to take over the world yet is imagination,
Right,
is our ability to be creative.
right. And that's the point. And we introduce these innovative technology solutions, and that's what I say to the workforce. Don't be threatened by it. What we're going to do is take your capabilities and better use it than
Mhm.
having you sit there and look at a bunch of lights on a server and tell when it goes down. There's so much more we need you to be able to do. So just like everything else that we've moved forward in our networks and our IT is retraining and
Mhm.
taking this very talented workforce and again finding their strength as we go forward and use them because I mean today pick any number you hear in the media 500,000, 700,000. We are short by that much in the cyber workforce.
And
So
have been for how many years? Like 20 years,
exactly.
right?
Right. So there are plenty of jobs. You are not going to lose your job if we change a technology. We're going to retrain you and use you in a better, stronger capability that we need.
Mhm. So AI action plans have been mandated. What do you think are some key components that should be included in an AI action plan? And where do
Um,
leaders start?
yeah, I mean that's step number one. How do we redefine the landscape? That has to be the first step. What do we want AI to bring to the civilian operation or the military operation of the business that we're in today? So, how do you think? And this is I remember being interviewed by a reporter one time, and they asked me, "Did you ever imagine X?" And I said, "It's unimaginable." And so, this is almost this AI plan. It can be unimaginable, but we got to start somewhere. So,
Mhm.
what does that landscape look like? What are the talents, the people, because it comes down to the people. What are the type of people that we need to be able to operate in this environment? And this is one when we were really, you know, bringing in fiber and using it the way we were. I said it just takes a different mindset. It takes a different person that can operate inside of this nebulous environment because you do a military operation and you know how to do that military operation, you train it, train it, train it. Well, when you're in the cyber environment, it, we have enemies and adversaries coming at us from every which way, but who knows which way. So there can't be enough um, training documents to say if this, then that. I mean, we have the basics, but this is going to be the same thing for AI. If this, then that is going to be minimum until we learn. Until we get our lessons learned and actually execute it. And then we develop this ongoing plan. But start with the what's the landscape look like? What do we want to be able to achieve? What's the talent of the individuals that have to operate inside of this in this environment and on that platform? And then how do we train them as we go through it? And then have the after piece of the forensics. What did we learn? And then we got to go back at it again and update it as we continue to look at how we use it.
So we need a workforce that's interested in learning, that's interested in using their imagination. It almost sounds like we need a workforce that's willing to play,
Isn't that how we started with cybersecurity? We started doing games.
right?
We started doing, you know, what if environments, drills, exercises, and we still do them today. We still call them capture the flag,
Mhm.
where we'll put an incident out there or a attack out there, and these teams come together and they need to find the solution, and then they need to take the adversary down. So we do this still today in this environment. We'll need to do that in artificial intelligence as well.
I just heard a spot on NPR yesterday about like a board game. I mean, I think it's a really awesome board game that's being played in DC, and it's a war game, and it's with our national defense leaders. And it was I was just like, I need the think tank that did that to come in and do one of my events because how fun would that be, first of all? But
Right.
I mean, yeah, yeah. So now it's the time in the show to go to our tech talk questions, which are fun,
Okay.
rapid fire questions. So I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball here.
Okay.
You could always use your pass, but What's the weirdest piece of tech that you've ever seen in the defense world? And you get bonus points if it's something that sounded ridiculous but actually worked.
You're not going to believe this. Yeah, the biggest technology, when I enlisted in the Army, it was 1 week after my 18th birthday from a little farm town in Iowa. And I was a stenographer. And Carolyn, you're young enough, you're going to have to Google what a stenographer was in the military. And the biggest technology advancement that I had is when they came out with whiteout. So I didn't have to retype everything over and over again. So that's where I started.
Wow. Whiteout.
Whiteout.
Some of our listeners are going to have to Google that. I do know what that is.
Exactly. And then you fast forward, did I ever imagine? No, I didn't imagine that I would one day be the CIO of the United States Army during a very tough time, multiple conflicts at war for over 20 years. And we looked at how we were fighting on the battlefield, and how we fought over those 20 years will be nothing like the battle of tomorrow. And so we have to be open to, as I said, the country that wins the innovation race is going to win. And so we have to accept these new technologies. And more importantly, how do we get them into our solutions faster? How do we trust them as we go forward, and be able to take advantage of having them? That's kind of the world. It's been amazing.
Yeah. All right. Next Tech Talk question. If you could deploy one futuristic AI technology from science fiction in today's military, what would it be?
Having been the senior communications officer in our Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom, having to get our service members off the battlefield that have been wounded and taken care of, and back to deployed back to Landstuhl or wherever we needed to send them to save them. It's the Star Trek doctor that can come in and be looking over the medic who is taking care of that wounded soldier and advising them as to what they need to do to save his or her life.
I've always wanted. Yep, I've always wanted those. I don't think they call them tricorders, but also in the same vein, teleportation, right? Because then we could get them off the battlefield to where they need to be.
Right. That's right.
All right. So, General, it's been just an absolute pleasure. For defense leaders looking to integrate AI responsibly, what's one step they can take right now to building trust in AI?
I have to go back to collaboration. We've got to bring the team together. We've got to bring our best of the best together at the table and talk about what it is that we need to do to take advantage of this new landscape and how we're going to move forward and build this plan. We can't do it alone. We won't be able to do it militarily or industrial or academically until we come together and bring the best of those environments and how we're going to solve those problems together. So I would say collaboration.
Which is exactly what you are leading the charge on right now at AFCEA.
Yes.
So although you may be retired from the Army, you have not retired from the mission. Where can our listeners connect with you to learn more about your work?
I am so proud of this team that we work with, and I just want to, I want to talk about, we would not be here today if it were not for the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of volunteers that support our 139 chapters around the world. They don't get paid to do this mission, but they believe in national security. They believe in what AFCEA International can do. And they're my number one individuals that I always thank wherever I am, on a stage, in a podcast, because we can't do what we do without them. The other individuals are just as critical. It's our industry partners. We cannot do the events we do without our industry partners, without their sponsorships, without their exhibits. without their recommendations as they come in and say, what about this? I just value my time with industry and what they bring to the table for us. And we can't leave academia out. We have got to figure out a way to get people trained, to be innovative, to be creative. Anybody who will listen to me as we look at this shortage of the cyber workforce, I so believe in a trade school for cyber. We have these amazing men and women who come out with all this experience. Instead of making them get a 4-year degree, let's get them a 2-year trade degree so that we can put them right back out there on the workforce. And so, just like we do an electrician, just like we do a plumber, when you specialize in things like this, then give them an environment to get their specialty degree and get them back out in the workforce.
hmm And how about this? We stand up a cyber force.
I'm not voting on that one yet.
No? Okay, well, that's for another episode then.
But as you said, I don't want to forget, it's just reach out to us. You can go to AFCEA.org and find any one of us. And we love to hear from you, and we love your recommendations, your thoughts, and where we need to go. And Carolyn, today, just this discussion is another example of how we can move our organization forward.
Well, and I'll encourage our listeners to sign up for Signal Magazine. I love the physical magazine, but you can get it online too. It comes to my house. I love to hold it in my hands and underline stuff, and I save them all. But also, you've got a conference coming up in Reston on July 15th that I believe is free to attend. Well, tell me about TechNet Emergence.
Yes, it's TechNet Emergence. It's different than our other TechNets that we do. This one, we want to focus on our engineers. We want to focus on the technical solutions. We love who comes to our event and supports us. But in this case, it's smaller, and it's supporting the Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering, and there are 13 critical technical areas. And so we've already taken 2 of their areas and have done separate events on them. But what we're going to do is bring 4 more of those critical technical areas to Reston and go through with our experts and our engineers and our technologists and say, how do we work these? Where do we prioritize? We can't do all 13 at the same time because we got a budget we have to support. And where should this fall, and how should we get after it? So it's a different type of summit that we do, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I have not been attended or sponsored Emergence. Is it new this year?
This is our 2nd year, so we're not sure where we're going to go with it and what it is. But we were asked by the previous Undersecretary, Honorable Heidi Shute, to do this and to get people thinking about the technical side of our business as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, we will put a link to where you can register for TechNet Emergence in the notes. Again, it's July 15th and 16th in Reston, Virginia. And then I also know that you have a podcast called Disruptive by Design. Tell us a little bit about that.
I absolutely love that podcast. One of our reporters, Kimberly Underwood, runs it. And we just look at what's going on out there today. Where are some of the things that may not be the most popular way to look at things? How can we move forward and be disruptive in getting to solutions? Think about AI. Let's be disruptive and be a little bit less risk averse and a little bit more positive in what it can do for us.
I love it. It sounds like it is a podcast that gets the creative juices going. So thanks again, General Lawrence, for sharing your insights, for spending time with me today. It's been just a delight and a pleasure. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. Please share this episode. Smash that like button. We'll be back soon with more conversations about the evolving world of tech transforms. Stay curious and keep imagining the future. Thanks for joining us on Tech Transforms. If you enjoyed this episode, please smash that like button and talk about it with a friend. I'm Carolyn Ford, and this is Tech Transforms.